Okay, welcome back to the channel. So the day has finally arrived to work on this 76 shovel. So you can see it behind me over here. So today in part one, we're going to talk a little bit about what are the plans for this bike, the work that's going to be done on it, time frames to have some of the work completed, and my thoughts on that. So one thing I wanted to show you is that I'm going to try to follow the manual as closely as I can. So let me show you this. So if you look up here, I've got the manual up here on the TV. So it says stripping motorcycle for engine repair. So we're going to try to follow this, according to the service manual and see how close we can follow it. Some things I might cut little corners on it to do a little bit quicker, but we're going to follow this procedure to strip down the motorcycle. So let's go over everything that's going to be done on this bike. Okay, so if you've been watching the channel at all, you know the biggest problem with this bike right now, well actually a couple of big problems, is the wiring and this blob that you see right here that's JB Weld that's underneath the case. I don't really know what that is. I don't really know the history of this bike. I don't know any kind of repairs that's been done to this bike. I'm assuming that there's probably a hole there and they filled this in to be able to ride the bike, but that's going to be taken care of. And as a result of that, we've got to split the cases. Now, initially I had not planned on splitting the cases on this bike. It was going to be a top end, and I was going to test the rods. If they needed to be replaced, then I was going to do the lower end, but now that's absolutely a given. I've got to do the lower end. I've already got a shop in mind that I talked to them about doing this, so they don't have a problem, doing the lower end of this bike. However, they don't do the top ends. They don't do the cylinders or the heads, but I did find a local shop in town, which I never even knew was here, that's a high performance engine shop that I talked to them this past weekend. They're going to do the heads and the cylinders for me. They're going to bead blast the heads, bead blast the cylinders and the heads. That way I can paint these the semi-gloss black that they're supposed to be. Same thing with the tappet covers. I'm going to bring them down to them, let them bead blast those so those can be painted black too. But let's go around the front of the bike, and we'll start from the front, go all the way around, and we'll talk about what's going to be done. Okay, so the front end, I just got the fender covered here just so I don't want to get damaged. So that's the one thing I'm not going to do with this bike, is have any kind of paint work done. I think the paint is fine. There is a couple marks like right here and right here, but I think this is just, if this moves down a little bit, that'll cover that. And I might actually have some blue that was off this bike, probably can't tell, that will match that up pretty well. Looks like the seat maybe is, that's where the seat was hitting before I moved it back a little bit. But anyway, let's go back to the front. We're going to rebuild the front caliper. I already replaced this brake line when I replaced the hand controls. These are brand new hand controls with new wiring, so we're not going to replace those. The windshield's coming off. All right, so one of the few things that is going to be upgraded on this bike is the lighting system. So these are just the regular lights that come on the Electric Glide, the stock lights that have come on these bikes for years. What I'm going to do is I'm going to replace these lights. So if you see the sports there, we replaced those already. Those are LEDs. They just plug right into the regular light socket. But these things are these are 20 years old and they still work fine. So we're going to replace both the front and the rear turn signal lights with those. I don't really want an LED light. You can see it's kind of burned back there, so we're going to replace this with an updated version of this Werner light. It's still going to be the same type, but I don't want an LED up here. Same thing with these. These are going to remain the same. We're just going to get new lights, and this has to be turned. I don't know why that's turned out, but we got to turn that in. These are coming off anyway. When the windshield comes off, this nacelle, if you see right here, that's actually supposed to be a brushed aluminum, so that's going to be replaced. I don't really like this chrome one. I want it to be the brushed aluminum like it is. And these, we're going to polish these up. The forks are going to come apart. We're going to drain them, put new seals in, new fluid. We might have to replace the springs. I don't know yet about that till I take it apart. Some stuff I don't actually know what's going to go on until I take it apart to look at it. All the electronics or electrical in this bike is going to be replaced. Voltage regulator, stator, everything. Wires, plugs, anything that's electrical is basically going to be replaced. It's going to need, except for the front wiring harness, which is brand new, there's going to be the main wiring harness, which goes from this terminal block here out to the front, and then the rear one. Because one thing I don't like is the way these, I don't know if you can see it, they use these butt connectors, which I don't like. So lately, intermittently, I've been getting turn signals that sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. So I'm pretty sure there's probably a ground that's somewhere in there. There's a terminal block behind here, behind the headlight, as well as a terminal block down here. The wiring on these bikes are really simple. There's nothing really complicated about them. We're going to replace the neck bearing in here, probably with the races too. We'll probably pull the races out. Going down this side, we're going to put a new coil in. We're going to get a new petcock. This one is seen better days. It works fine. I think it's weeping just a little bit. Of course, we're going to pull the motor. Going to put a new compensator in. We're going to put new clutches in. I haven't decided what brand of clutch I'm going to get, whether I get a stock Harley clutch or I get some other brand. I'm still researching the different types of clutches. As far as the exhaust goes, the only thing I'm going to do on the exhaust, I think, is get rid of these pipes and put the original fishtails back on it. I don't really like these pipes at all. I think these are, I don't know if these are Vance and Hines or what they are, but I don't particularly like those pipes. I'm going to take a look at the shocks. Might have to replace the shocks. We're replacing both the the primary chain and the drive chain, secondary chain. We're going to put an O-ring chain in that, and we're going to replace the sprockets in the wheel and in the up front up here. We're going to, as long as we get this apart, might as well replace all that stuff so we don't have to get into it again. Not going to do anything with the bags. We are going to take this off. Same thing with these lights. We're going to go with LED lights. I do like this blue dot light. That we're going to keep that. I don't think there's a whole lot going back here. We're going to do the wheel bearings back here. I think the rotor is fine. Again, I won't know till I take the bags off so I can get a really good look at it. Already pulled the battery out of here. Going to get a new starter. The starter seems a little weak. I don't know if it's the starter or if it's the battery. I got the battery over here charging. It's on a storage charge right now. I got to add some distilled water to it, but we're going to replace the starter. All the stuff is coming off. The goal is to bring this bike down to a rolling frame because I want to power wash the frame and get all this grease and dirt of years accumulation on this frame. If it's too cold out for me to use my power washer, I'm going to load it on the trailer and take it to a car wash. It has one of those spray type of car washes and wash it there. But the frame definitely needs to be cleaned. And I don't want to be spraying it down and using 10,000 paper towels to clean it. I want to be able to get it good with a power washer. I don't know if we're going to need to do push rods. I don't think we are. Carburetor staying here. This line I already replaced, so we're going to keep that. There is a line between the rockers up here that I didn't replace because you got to take the tank off to do it, and it's not leaking. But I've got a new line anyway for it because we're going to get new gaskets for the exhaust. All new fasteners. I think we can just rebuild the oil pump. I have to take that apart and look at it. Same thing with the transmission. The bike runs fine. I don't have an issue at all with this bike running or shifting. It does seem like the clutch is slipping a little bit, and I've adjusted it. But I think we're better off just replacing the clutch altogether. And we're going to replace all the lines, all the oil lines. So I'm planning on popping the top on the clutch to take a look at it. I don't think I'm going to have to replace anything. I hope I don't. That's one less thing I got to worry about. Like I said, the bike shifts fine, so I don't think there's an issue with the transmission. Getting oil pressure, so I don't think there's a problem with the oil pump, but we are going to take that apart and look at it. As far as the lifters, I'll probably replace the lifters depending on how they look. We are getting new pistons, new rings. And the shop that I found locally around here, you know, we got to find out and make sure that the cylinders are not out of round. I have no idea if these cylinders were ever taken out to 10 over, 20 over, 30 over. I have no idea. I can't see any markers when I scope the cylinders. So we'll find out as soon as we pull the cylinders if these are stock pistons or if they took these out at all. What am I going to do? We're going to replace the bushing for the swing arm. That's going to be replaced. All the oil lines are going to be replaced, of course. See if I can see anything in there. Yeah, nothing really in there to do. This is the relay. Here's the relay for the starter relay. That's going to be replaced. Those are notorious to go bad. Also, I'm also thinking about possibly replacing the points ignition with electronic ignition. Just it's one less headache you got to deal with. And I did that in the panhead. I replaced the points on that with electronic, and it ran fine after that. I'm not seeing anything like up underneath the tank, and nothing really up there. But anyway, I think that's going to be it. I think that's all we're doing. As if that isn't enough. We're not replacing the wheels. We're not replacing the rims. I'm not replacing the tires. I kind of like that black tire with no white wall look. I kind of like that tire. So I'm going to keep these tires. They seem to run fine. There's, a lot of stuff like this is going to have to be sandblasted. This thing here, repainted. Same thing with this bracket up here that goes up to the brakes. But that's why I want to power wash everything. It's so dirty and filthy in there. And let me see if I can see anything in here we're going to do. Okay, that is going to wrap it up for part 1. So part 2, we'll start tearing into this bike and start tearing stuff apart. As far as the time frame, I don't really have a time frame. This is something that I don't want to rush, and a lot of it's going to depend upon the shops. I'm pretty sure that the shop that I talked to that's local is going to do the cylinders and heads, can do that pretty quick. I think the turnaround time there is going to be quick. Splitting the cases from that shop might take a while. I've had work done from them in the past. I'm not saying that they took a long time to do it. I'm not that familiar with them as far as the splitting cases. So we'll just have to see how that goes, and we'll have to plug on with other stuff. There's plenty of work to do on this bike without having the motor here. So, I mean, from what I showed you, there's plenty of stuff to do. So anyway, don't forget to subscribe, and you can see the progress of this bike. Hopefully, I'd like to see this bike done by May of 2025. So that's what, we're in October now, November, December, January, February, March. That's 7 months, 7 months, 6 months, 7 months. I think that should be plenty of time, because I'm not going to be looking for NOS stuff, parts for this bike. I'm going to get what I can get, and if it's aftermarket, it's aftermarket. That's the way it's going to be. So anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.